key. It says "Bepichau lebevacha," that in your mouth and in your heart. Now the reason I say it's misunderstood is because when they referred to mouth and heart, they had a very specific reference point. Today, if I said it's in your heart, you would understand that to be emotional. In biblical time, the heart was the seat of intellect. All intellectual activity stemmed, they understood it from the heart. Your mouth was the seat of all emotion. So what the statement's saying is God has placed within you, between your two abilities, intellect and emotion, the ability to know what you need to do at any one moment, what is right for you to do, what is right and what is required.
Right, and I'm trying to think of any culture anywhere on earth. I don't think there are any that don't believe things like murder and rape are wrong. They are right. They
define things in such a way that we would have a problem.
Yeah.
There are countries, and I'm not going to specify which ones, because I really don't want to inflame the issue. There are countries that actually allow a child who's 7 years old, female, to be taken in an unconsenting marriage, and they do not consider that rape, nor do they consider it abuse. I have a problem with that.
Sure.
I think the way it's been defined in that particular culture is counterintuitive, to say the least. There are other cultures and countries which have decided that the use of what we would consider rape as corporal punishment is acceptable, and not in the category of rape that they have defined it. Again.
Yeah, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that I think whether or not you believe in the God that we share, there is something planted at the core of every being. There are basic things that are right and that are wrong. I think that's part of being human. And I think that because our Constitution was taken from the laws of God, that's why it can be so universal. That's why other countries seek a Constitution that provides rights to their people. That, to me, is why our Constitution is so precious.
I would agree.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You made reference to how we have these divisions because of the heated politics today. And a few years ago, in communicating with a friend, anytime we said something, we were racist, we were bigoted, we were nasty people, and so on. And that continued for quite a while. And I kept saying we don't want to break a friendship because of politics. We need to maintain our friendship. However, the friendship did end when this person sent a message that my husband and I needed to understand that she and her husband hate the United States of America. Now, are we to overlook that?
No, you're not to overlook it. In fact, the moment the name calling started, I would have called them on it and said, friends, do not. That's not civil discourse. That's not friendly. I can't go out and call somebody a pejorative, a major curse, or whatever else I'm thinking of, and expect them to say, oh, because you're my friend, it's acceptable. It's not. Nor is it done by true friends. When I said that we need to extend respect to somebody's opinions, that didn't mean extend respect to their disrespect.
Well, our answer to that was, we will come to your house and help you pack your bags. And you can go to whatever utopia you have in the world. And then after that, there will be no more communication, and there's been no more.
I have to tell you, I grew up in the time of Vietnam. In fact, I'll do a confession. I'm a draft dodger. At the time that I was drafted, I was serving in the IDF, in the Israeli Defense Forces, and I had just gone through the Yom Kippur War. I was actually in a body cast, and the draft notice arrived at my home in Tel Aviv. My wife, my ex-wife, bought me, at that time my wife, bought me the notice and said, what are we going to do with this? And Bill McDonald was the secretary at the embassy at that time, and we were friends. And I said, do me a favor, call Bill and tell him I'm stuck here at the hospital. Don't explain I'm a patient, just say I'm stuck here. And ask him if he could bring the forms and everything over to the hospital. Well, she did. Bill walked to my hospital and he looked at me and I says, you know, Goldstein, there are easier ways to avoid the draft. I heard people make statements about how oppressive America is. Remember, Vietnam era, all of you, I suspect, were there at that point. We heard it. And some truly believe it. Having traveled a little bit around the world, I have to tell you that there are very few places I have found where you have the freedom to make such a statement about the country you live in. And that for some of these young people who, and older, who feel this way and think this way, they haven't realized what the rest of the world is like. And they really don't appreciate the blessings of liberty that they have and freedom.
So these people I referred to actually were with the State Department and have traveled quite a bit.
In that case, there is sometimes, I can't explain every case. In some cases, I simply think there's a disconnect between logic and...
So they were a little older, and I think they came through the communist push in the country.
Again, if they lived under communism, they would not have had that. They only visited and saw what they were supposed to see by the communist regime. You can get that impression.
Next question.
Just like you.
Rabbi, thank you. It was a very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
A couple things you said, I was taking notes because I'm acting secretary tonight. I just wanted to get a clarification on one of which you said, and I totally agree with, that we should judge on the basis of the justice of a case and not on whether a person is poor or wealthy.
Correct.
Do you feel that's the kind of justice system we have in the United States today?
All right, I think that's the kind of justice system that was set up to be in place. I believe that with people, fallibility comes in.
Yes.
And I believe that the way we have different ways of choosing judges still in the country. Some judges are elected, as you know. Some are appointed. I don't think we've yet figured out a way to select judges that guarantee impartiality. And so I'm going to say that while that is still the ideal to be reached for, we haven't reached it yet.
As long as judges have personal agenda, we're not going to get it.
Like I said, as long as we are,
And there's too many celebrities in this country that have a lot of money that get away with things that would put anybody in this room under the jail for a long period of
Look,
time. So that's-
I'm not going to disagree. I've seen what I call miscarriages of justice based on name and wealth. I've also seen it go a little bit in the other direction. I've seen some miscarriages based on poverty. Instead of looking at the actual act, they're saying, well, look how the person was raised. And,
Yeah, or on jury nullification. You know?
all right, so in both cases, there's a problem.
Right.
So my answer is, have we reached that ideal that the Torah sets out? Obviously not.
We have a convicted murderer that was just honored by the city of Lakeland named Ray Lewis. For having been in the Hall of Fame and graduated from Kathleen High School. He murdered 2 people in the back of a taxi and was let off primarily because of his celebrity, and he's still being celebrated today. Anyway, I'll move on. The other thing you said, I believe, and if I didn't hear you right, please correct me. I think you said that the Constitution is still a work in progress. By that, do you mean that it should be a living document?
I believe it is a living document in two ways. Just as the 5 books of Moses are a living document by continued exegesis, continued commentary of understanding of what those laws mean or what those phrases mean, as we gain greater understanding, we gain greater insight, and sometimes it becomes the aha moment of, aha, now I understand what I never did before.
Well, again, we have a lot of justices, judges, who have interpreted the Constitution which, in a way that many of us feel is dead wrong.
I'm not disagreeing with that. But the second part that's still a living document is the amendments. Within our system, we have the ability to add to the document
Yeah, by the amendment system,
by the amendment system.
but not by interpreting